there's one thing Sailor Moon never gets enough credit for, it's gotta be the fashion. Sure, everyone loves the transformations, but those everyday outfits, that's really what I live for. They really help define and characterize the Senshi as real typical girls of the era. Girls who had school uniforms, casual hangout clothes, and the occasionally deeply questionable fashion choices. Today we're continuing our deep dive into Rei Hino's closet, a place I've been accused of never getting out of, but you'll have that when you review women's clothing from an anime that's over 3 decades old. Today we will be going over all the outfits from Sailor Moon R, S, and their accompanying movies. If you are a returning viewer from part 1 or just stumbled in because of the algorithm, or you just clicked because I used that official Rei card art that got you acting unwise, you're in the right place. If you missed part 1, don't worry. Our episode 18 has you covered, since this entire ensemble is just a palette swap from episode 15 of Classic. Really starting off strong, aren't we? Most of what I said before applies here, though I'd argue the salmon pink top is actually a better fit than the original pastel green. It feels a bit more intentional, especially since it ties in with those layered socks I gushed about last time. I could have easily skipped this outfit and kicked things off with episode 20's much stronger new ensemble, but Rei does add a previously unseen accessory here, a purse. That small detail kinda seals the deal. This pseudo-athletic outfit is more of a fashion statement than anything intended for actual exercise. But all in all, it's essentially the same ensemble as before. Damn, Rei, you stole Minako's entire flow, color scheme and all. The goldenrod orange shorts, the oversized bow. Is it wrong to say I really like Rei in this outfit? It has such a breezy, summery feel while still pulling heavily from the traditional Japanese school uniform aesthetic. It creates a sort of tension between casual wear and this structured traditional uniformity. It gives the look a subtle edge, making it stand out more than it probably has any right to. It has all the elements I've come to see as a trademark of Rei, a bold blend of traditional attire and modern sensibilities. The sailor-inspired collar and bow invoke the formality of uniforms, while the bright colors and casual fit give it a fun contemporary feel. It's the constant contrast that makes her outfit stand out, like she's always balancing who she is with who she's expected to be. It's great character design. Well, everyone, it's that time again. Say it with me.
It's the beach episode.
Beach episode. However, we aren't talking about the usually prescribed clothing choices for those episodes, since Sailor Moon R decided to reuse the same exact swimsuit Rei wore previously, with 0 alterations. So why am I even talking about this episode at all? Well, would you believe me if I told you they reused episode 18's palette swap with yet another palette swap? The shirt's purple now, or lavender, it really doesn't matter. I just hope you're not sick of this particular outfit, because it's not the last time we'll be seeing it. Episode 23 features a blink and you miss it appearance from Rei, and you guessed it, she's wearing yet another palette swap of the same outfit. To be fair, the entire ensemble is on screen for maybe a single frame, so I don't entirely blame them for reusing the design. But let's be real, 3 of the 4 entries in this video have been variations of the same outfit, and this is probably the worst looking of the bunch. The top is now a subdued gray, and the shorts have become this hideous shade of green while still sporting the same color of layered socks. It's perhaps the worst iteration of this outfit, which is probably why she's angled so awkwardly behind Usagi for the entire scene. Even the animators didn't want us to get that good of a look. But, wow, were they really dead set on making this a thing. I don't know who on the staff was obsessed with it or if it was just the simplest casual outfit to animate, but I'm sick of talking about it. I just swear to God, if there's another color swap. Sailor Moon R episode 24 starts with yet another color swap. Thankfully, it's an outfit with a little bit more going on than the previous one. And while I'm still more partial to the previous palette from episode 2 for its darker tone, this palette has its own charms. That said, I'm not entirely sure why Rei decided to mix lime yellow with a mint green blazer. It's not hideous by any means, it actually skirts the line of being fun and spring-like, But then she throws in that bright red purse and suddenly the whole ensemble feels visually confused. The purse worked so well last time because the more subdued color palette, but here it's just visual noise. Why bother with a statement accessory when your whole outfit already looks like you colored it in with a highlighter? The red purse doesn't really complement, it competes, and quite frankly, I already need sunglasses just to look at you. The same episode actually does feature a new outfit, although I can't help but shake the feeling I've seen it somewhere before, despite it being an entirely new ensemble. That's likely because it shares a lot of overlap with Rei's earlier looks, giving it a somewhat forgettable silhouette. That being said, I actually do like the execution of the design. The mustard yellow long sleeve top tucked into lavender gray shorts feels like a remix of her usual casual formula, while the white belt serves as a good dividing line between the two contrasting colors. Still, it feels so uninspired, it gives me a sense of deja vu, ironic considering it's one of the few wholly original designs in a sea of recolors we've seen so far. I suppose being forgettable has its own advantages as opposed to the next design. Hey, I heard you like Rei in overalls. It's all anyone ever talks about when it comes to iconic Rei outfits. Yet somehow her Mario cosplay from our episode 30 isn't held up to the same pedigree as the pink ones are. And honestly, it's not hard to see why. It's essentially the same outfit, just with bright red overalls replacing the pink and a long-sleeved minty top instead of the much cuter short-sleeved cream one. I'm just gonna come out and say it. The new color palette strips away the playful charm of the original and replaces it with nothing, really. The color palette takes away from the playful exuberance of the previous incarnation and doesn't replace it with anything of substance. Whereas the pink design helps showcase an interesting aspect of Rei's character, this one feels wrong in a sense that's harder to pinpoint, although her sock choice might be a good start. Those neon teal socks paired with red overalls and brown flats were somehow a conscious choice. If there's a pattern forming, it's that Sailor Moon R wasn't especially kind to Rei's wardrobe. She only gets 7 unique outfits across the entire season, and this next outfit, while technically new, it doesn't do much to pull her out of the fashion grave Toei seemed determined to bury her in. The final outfit we see Rei in during Sailor Moon R comes from fan favorite episode 32. You know, the one where Minako decides she's going to be a nurse. Naturally, Rei makes a brief appearance sporting a loungewear set that still keeps to the underlying philosophy of her outfit design, a blend of traditional and modern elements. This time with a deep purple hat and robe layered over simple yellow pajamas. It's relaxed without being sloppy, traditional without feeling dated. It just feels like something Rei would wear that the other girls wouldn't. I'm unsure if this particular ensemble is reminiscent of some traditional Japanese sickwear, as I'm far enough removed from the culture to not be able to identify it as such, but regardless, it does what it needs to do while still providing a unique look for Rei. While Rei had a pretty weak showing throughout the weekly serialization of Sailor Moon R, the aptly titled Sailor Moon R the movie finally gave her something to work with, and they were absolutely cooking with this particular outfit. It's almost worth letting those earlier transgressions slide, it's that good of a look. At its core, it's a relatively simple design, being a lavender pinafore dress layered over a long-sleeved neon yellow shirt. But that simplicity, that's what makes it work. The red ribbon choker is a unique accessory, although it doesn't do much to elevate the overall design. I still like its inclusion, it adds a bit of flair, but it also feels a little tacked on, maybe because the rest of the outfit is so streamlined. Still, it's a really strong look and a much needed win for Rei's fashion track record in R. You can really see Ikuhara's Rei bias on full display here, although compared to the other films, this is one of the weaker movie outfits, with the clear winner being highlighted in this part's thumbnail, but it's still a fantastic outfit. With R now behind us, we can finally turn our attention to Sailor Moon S, and Toei certainly wasted no time trying to make up for the lack of Rei originality in the prior season. The outfits here are some of the best in the entire series, rivaled only by what we saw back in Classic, and leading the charge is her debut look from S Episode 1, arguably one of the cutest outfits in her entire repertoire. Don't let looks fool you. This outfit is deceptively difficult to discuss without slipping into a loop of repeating how adorable it is. At the end of the day, it really is just an oversized pink and cream sweater with orange trim, but somehow it captures an essence of Rei previously only ever made manifest in those damn pink overalls. In my opinion, though, this outfit does everything those did, only better. It still communicates the same unexpected sense of childlike warmth, but unlike the overalls, this isn't an outfit you'd wear outside your home, and that subtle distinction actually says a lot. It reflects how Rei hides that aspect of herself and only reveals it to those closest to her. Where the overalls put that internal contradiction on full display, this look hints at it quietly, intimately, like a reserved expression of who she is when no one is looking. Or, it's just a big, comfy sweater and I'm reading too much into it. This next outfit is a bit of a puzzling one, since I both really like it and I really don't. On one hand, it taps into the core ethos of the entire Sailor Moon franchise, that indomitable feminine will, the idea that women are capable of anything without compromising their identity or soft power. It's this nuanced theme that I'm really poorly explaining it, but Sailor Moon S is where that core message really begins to break free from the show's earlier attempts at stating that message to actually showing it in practice. This outfit captures a very 90s interpretation of that message, placing Rei in what's typically regarded as standard male work attire. Wide-legged, high-waisted trousers, a collared shirt, and a tie. Actually, the whole styling leans more into late 80s men fashion sensibilities with the oversized silhouette, broad shoulders, bold stripes, but I digress. What does matter is that it feels intentional for her character. It's traditional but worn in an unorthodox convention. The fit itself suggests it wasn't tailored for her. The shirt is still baggy, the pants still loose, all of which implies that it might literally be a man's outfit. I especially love the soft purple color palette on the button-down, and I'm always a fan of French cuffs, but that tie, it's such an eyesore. Suspenders would have done a far better job to sell the outfit's identity without disrupting their overall look, but that might just be my personal bias talking. I know, I just went on a whole tirade about the outfit's deeper meaning, even though the episode's mostly about taking care of some cats. Still, the ideas are beginning to manifest. That shift in ideology is there, however faint, and while the outfit may not fully embody it, it's a small step in a new direction. A direction that fittingly will be carried on by two new characters introduced this season, actually starting in the very next episode. I'm not sure when shades of green became a reoccurring motif in Rei's wardrobe, but this outfit leans into it full force, and somehow it makes it work. Funnily enough, it shares nearly an identical color scheme to the outfit from our episode 24, which I absolutely dragged, yet here it feels a bit more natural. It's still an odd color combo. Lime green and crimson don't exactly scream harmony, but somehow the crimson miniskirt is doing some heavy lifting. I think it has a lot to do with the reflective sheen they gave it. That glossy finish implies a more synthetic material like a vinyl or satin, which adds an almost dance club feel to the whole ensemble that intrigues me more. It's unexpected, especially for Rei, who's usually associated with more elegant or traditional silhouettes. Speaking of traditional silhouettes, what the hell is she even wearing as a top? It looks like a lime green deep V-neck sweater layered over a yellow button-down. Good luck finding that in the real world, but hey, some animator clearly thought it looked good with a shiny skirt, and honestly, they weren't wrong. They weren't right either, and whatever she's wearing just has me stumped. If that last ensemble confused you half as much as it confused me, just wait until you get a good look at this little number from episode 5. It looks like Rei wandered straight out of a Eurodance music video, and honestly, I kind of love it. This outfit is chaos in theory, but surprisingly cohesive in execution. According to the set tie, it's supposed to be a leather jumper skirt paired with tights underneath. So in practice, what we've got is this cherry red faux leather mini jumper dress layered over what appears to be a full cyan bodysuit. And the wildest part, she wore this to a checkup, like a casual wellness visit to one of Usagi's friends. Everyone else showed up in their school uniform, and Rei pulled up looking like she just left a rave. But here's the strange part. The whole ensemble, despite its high-gloss absurdity, actually looks weirdly conservative. The silhouette is extremely modest. High neckline, long sleeves, tights. There's nothing particularly revealing about it. I'm not sure if the tights are doing a lot of the heavy lifting here, or if it's just the way the bodysuit reads against the jumper, but it somehow balances the entire look, which in turn creates a paradoxically tame look that chaotically highlights everything I love about Rei's character design ethos. This ensemble should be scandalous. It should be wild, but somehow it's not. It looks like the rave took place at a Christian youth group and the communion wine got spiked with water. It rides that razor thin edge between edgy and restrained, and only Rei could walk that line without tripping. I'm not really sure about the energy they're going for with all the girls in episode 6, but someone wanted to put them all in these very modest outfits, and they just look like they're someone's really cute aunt chaperoning at an elementary school dance. The set tie for this episode looks wildly different from the rest I've looked at, and I'm generally curious who designed this particular outfit, with my best guess being Mari Taminaga, who was the character designer and animation director starting with this episode, which might explain the massive difference in style, but if it wasn't her, I would really like to know who did draw these, since they are truly unique and I love them for their simple art style. That tangent aside, the outfit Rei wears in episode 6 is actually a personal favorite of mine, largely due to the attention to detail baked into it. It's a quietly elegant ensemble, a black tucked-in blouse paired with a rose-pink midi skirt topped with a soft sand-colored coat that helps balance and ground the palette. It's one of the few that feels not only well thought out, but intentionally layered in a way that mimics real-world fashion logic. Each piece complements the next, and nothing feels like an afterthought. The necklace is a surprisingly intriguing accessory, composed of segmented red beads interspersed with what appears to be smaller accent beads. At least that's how it appears to be depicted in the set tie artwork. In the anime, it reads more like a simple red cord with the occasional bead, but I actually prefer the former interpretation. The more deliberate arrangement gives it the feel of almost like prayer beads, which ties beautifully into Rei's character and hints at one of her more subtle dichotomies, which we will explore further when we get to another outfit. But with that being said, I absolutely adore this outfit. I've been rather consistent about foreshadowing the next segment at the end of the previous one throughout this video, but just to be clear, the outfit I was hinting to earlier, yeah, it's not this one. Unless the number 31 and a vaguely deranged hamster graphic are secretly symbols of some esoteric cult, there's not much to tease here. This is yet another example in the surprisingly robust category of Rei's casual loungewear, a staple apparently given how often the gang ends up hanging out at her place. Really makes you wonder why they never opted for some type of headquarters, maybe hidden in, I don't know, an arcade. It's practically the same concept as the last loungewear look, but this time the cute factor's been cranked up to 11, or apparently 31. The sporty vibe makes me think it might be merch from some local baseball team, and Rei only bought it because she thought the weird little mascot was cute. Not that she'd ever admit that, of course. Again, yellow and green take center stage in a Rei outfit, which at this point seems to be her new go-to palette for casual wear. This time they're joined by a pair of soft purple shorts, rounding out a trio that honestly makes me question everything I thought I knew about her color identity. Did I miss a memo? When exactly did these become her de facto colors? The outfit is completely fine, perfectly serviceable even, but it doesn't do anything that the previous loungewear look didn't already accomplish. It feels more like a lateral move than a new direction, and it's all in service of the same gag. Sure, the gag does a bit of legwork in developing Rei as a character, but there's only so many times you can tell the same joke before it starts to lose its impact. This one's cute, sure, but it's coasting off of charm we've already seen, and quite frankly, it's beginning to wear out its welcome. In episode 9, we see Sister Christian, but she's not motoring. Haruka is. For starters, I really like this outfit. We haven't seen Rei in jeans since episode 10 of R, so this feels less like a departure from her usual aesthetic and more of a natural return to form. The periwinkle collarless denim style jacket makes a bold statement, especially when paired with a coral pink shirt neatly tucked into high-waisted jeans. It's a surprisingly rugged look given the softness of the color palette. It's a very functional ensemble, straddling the line between casual day wear and something a bit more stylish. It actually reminds me of those full denim looks every mannequin at Gap used to be dressed in growing up. There's definitely a small spark of Americana to it, very indicative of the time. Like, we've all seen someone wearing this exact fit. It's got that we're dressing up to go to Applebee's Midwestern vibe that truly isn't replicated anywhere else. It's nostalgic in a weirdly comforting way, and for Rei, it's a fun detour from her usual blend of mystique and elegance. It feels a little more grounded, a little more everyday. It looks like she just left a Christian youth group, which might explain that little cross dangling there. Ironically, that tiny little accessory is the most fascinating portion of the entire design. What is a cross doing on a Shinto shrine maiden? Sailor Moon S isn't exactly a stranger to oddly placed Christian symbolism. Just look at the Holy Grail, the central transformation item of the arc, or the fact that the villains are called daemons. But even with those elements, the show never quite delves into Evangelion levels of pseudo-religious iconography. So it begs the question, why include the cross at all? Well, it's not exactly obscure trivia that Rei is the only girl who doesn't attend Juban Middle School. She actually goes to an all-girls Catholic school, TA Girls Academy. This is actually a whole plot point in the side story Casablanca Memory that was never adapted into the anime, but the staff would have been fundamentally aware of the story's existence, as it was published a year before this season started, and the side story before this one, The Lovers of Princess Kaguya, was actively being turned into a movie for this season. Without delving too deeply into a fairly unique cultural idiosyncrasy of Japan, Shinto seems to play rather well with other religious practices in the modern age. That's an important distinction. The lines between religious traditions are often more cultural than doctrinal, and Rei's character sits at a crossroads between the old and the new, between tradition in Shinto and the easiest associated symbol of Western culture and modernity, Christianity. Anime Rei and manga Rei are fundamentally different characters, so maybe the staff felt Casablanca Memory wouldn't translate very well. But still, I find it hard to believe Ikuhara would willingly pass up on a Rei-centric story. But, Sister Christian, you know the time has come, and you know that you're the only one to say, let's talk about something else.
How about this? You toss the incense, I'll toss Sister Christian. Load her in.
I love the fluidity of Rei's wardrobe. We just went from talking about two of the most conservative outfits she's ever worn to this absolutely stunning design. It's honestly such a fun and flirtatious design. Now, it doesn't quite look like it, but I believe this is actually a layered ensemble, with the flared red mini dress serving as the base with a tie front shrug made of the same material. There's a clear visual separator between the sleeves and the bodice, giving the illusion of simplicity into the design. Rei just tied the front into a bow and we got this iconic look. I'm such a fan of this design, from the flirty silhouette to the simplicity of the overall ensemble. It's really a gorgeous casual date night attire, and while the anime doesn't really showcase my favorite detail of the outfit, the set tie does. She's wearing sneakers as her shoe of choice, and that's such a capstone to this design. We all know Rei loves her heels, but there's something about the choice of sneakers that makes it feel more liberating than just the dress alone could perform. Episode 11's outfit is just a palette swap of our episode 24's design. We don't spend a lot of time with this color variant, but in reality, Rei just swapped out the shirt and kept everything else the same. The white belt, the same lavender gray shorts, all intact. It's one of those blink and you miss it changes, and honestly, it comes down to personal preference. Do you like the sky blue top better than the mustard yellow one from before? And neither is particularly remarkable, especially considering I already had a sense of deja vu when this ensemble first showed up. At least this time around, that familiarity is justified. We've seen it, we said our piece, let's move on. It's rather surprising that it's taken over 100 episodes for Toei to find an excuse to put the girls into yukata. After all, next to beach episodes, summer festival episodes are an anime staple. But when it finally happens in episode 103 or Sailor Moon S episode 14, they give us rather good designs. There's paradoxically both a lot and not a lot that could be done with the design of the yukata. On one hand, there's a fairly stringent adherence to the traditional silhouette. There's only so far you can deviate before it ceases to be a yukata at all. But on the other hand, there's plenty of room for personalization through color palettes, pattern choices, and accessorizing. The restrictions in form make the flourishes stand out all the more, but does Rei actually take advantage of that? Honestly, not really, and that's kind of the point. Rei's yukata is fairly standard. We're not seeing any radical deviations from the formula here. But then again, that's not really her style. The deep crimson fabric with its bold circular motif makes it feel more like a straightforward formal variant, something with weight and presence, especially compared to the ironically more common Sakura pattern you find at Don Quixote. An interesting detail worth noting is the crossed ribbon on the back of Rei's yukata, which tapers into a straighter line as it wraps towards the front. I'm not entirely sure if there's any specific significance to that design choice, likely a cultural detail I'm just not informed enough to pick up on. But either way, it's a feature noticeably absent from the rest of the girl's yukata designs. Rei also noticeably sports a ribbon in her hair, something that, while not dramatically altering her character silhouette, adds a surprisingly cute touch. I'm always a fan of the rare moments when characters are allowed to change up their hairstyles, and this subtle variation feels like just enough to make the look feel more festive without straying too far from her iconic image. Speaking of anime staples, just 2 episodes later, Toei dives right back in for thirds on the other fanservice favorite. Say it with me now, it's the beach episode. If we can hit 5, the 6th one is free. Well, technically this isn't a beach episode since they are at a resort in the mountains, but it's the beach vibe. Speaking of, I am really unsure of this particular swimsuit design. It's a really unique design for a one-piece swimsuit. High-cut legs, halter straps, and a square neckline make for a pretty typical profile, but the midsection is where the design starts to lose me. There's seemingly a knotted sash which serves to open up the back and expose a bit of her left hip along with hints of that beach bod belly in front in a flirtatious way, but why doesn't it commit to the bid and just become a 2-piece swimsuit? I just refuse to believe that this was done to avoid censorship. After all, it's an extremely tame design, and this is Japan we're talking about. Rei wears a 2-piece in her next beach outing, and if you've seen some of the officially licensed artwork coming out around that time, that's a lot more tame than what they're selling. Yeah, that's officially licensed. That actually might be the next thumbnail, depending on how desperate I get. The swimsuit feels like the designers felt like having an exposed back was just Rei's thing and wanted to push the envelope just a little bit more with this design. Looks completely fine, you'd never catch me wearing it, but that's not really indicative of its quality. Well, would you look at that? Rei's ski jacket is back, except it's not quite the same. The color palette has shifted from the sleek, cool-toned purple and green of its first appearance to a far more bolder cyan and yellow accent. And honestly, it's kind of a downgrade. Just from color scheme alone, it's not that visually appealing. But there is a silver lining here. When the jacket's unzipped, we get a surprise cameo from that cozy purple turtleneck sweater she wore back in episode 42 of Classic. It's pretty subtle, but it does a lot of heavy lifting in making Rei's wardrobe feel all the more lived in. She's actually re-wearing pieces, mixing them up, and dressing like a real person with actual preferences. It's the kind of continuity detail that makes the outfits in this series feel all the more actualized than other shows that actually bother with outfit changes. Even if I'd rather them keep the color palette consistent, because who owns multiple variants of the same expensive ski jacket? Well, I guess Rei could easily afford that being a politician's daughter and all that. The same episode does feature a barely there addition to Rei's wardrobe that I wasn't originally going to count, but hey, I reviewed a towel in part 1, so why not? There's even a set tie for it, so the animation team clearly considered it important enough to warrant its own outfit, so here it is. There's not much to say about it, honestly. It makes the briefest of appearances and leaves me scratching my head as to what it even is. Best guess, some sort of lightweight windbreaker or raincoat. possibly even school-issued, given that Rei's is a different color than Usagi and Makoto's, though Minako's got a completely different look altogether, like she was prepping for snow, but I'll talk about that when I get to her outfits. Anyway, that's all the time I'm willing to dedicate to this thing since I've nearly quadrupled its screen time. So that's really all the outfits we got for us. Kind of a low note to end on. Well, I guess it would be if we didn't still have the movie to cover. Aptly titled Sailor Moon as the movie, though the subtitle The Lover of Princess Kaguya is oftenly mistakenly attached. The wardrobes are actually pretty robust in this one, and Rei gets a grand total of 3 new outfits. I'm not gonna go in chronological order here just so I can end on a high note, because let's be honest, there's a clear standout from this film. The first outfit I wanted to talk about is the most forgettable of the bunch, being more or less a different iteration of her episode 42 outfit. The hallmarks are all there, red tights with a sweater, but there's more than enough variance that I wouldn't really consider this a mere palette swap, although conceptually, that's all it is. The sweater seems to be 2 separate layers, a white turtleneck underneath with the lime green and yellow sweater worn over it. At least they're sticking to that odd color palette that just won't go away. I believe this is the last time that particular palette appears on any new clothing, but it's been a repeat offender this entire part. The set tie shows this particular outfit with some stylized writing on it. My guess is it's some pseudo-calligraphic Western typography used to mimic some sort of brand without looking remotely like anything. It gives the sweater a little bit of flavor without really giving us anything to latch onto. Although it's seemingly one letter short of spelling anything, the real standout here, though, are the boots. Unlike the earlier version of this outfit, which paired the tights with plain black flats, this look opts for a pair of white mid-calf boots with yellow layered socks. Unfortunately, cool boots alone can't salvage the entire design. It's a passable look, but far from memorable. Thankfully, the other fits are far more interesting. The second outfit reads more like a winter sports jacket than anything else, with its paneled structure and zip up front giving it a practical, almost athletic feel. It ditches Rei's usual purples and reds in favors of a more natural, subdued color palette. Deep burgundy paired with olive brown, making it one of the more grounded and utilitarian pieces in her wardrobe. I don't particularly care for the color palette here. Maybe it would have looked better if the roles were reversed, with the pants in that olive brown and the jacket in the softer eggshell white, but at that point we're getting into semantics. What I will say is that the outfit improves considerably once Rei removes the jacket later in the scene. Underneath, she's wearing an orange mock turtleneck that looks like it's made out of some knitted material, and it just radiates coziness. It adds a welcome touch of warmth visually and thematically to an otherwise dour ensemble. Now this is how you close out on a high note. I'm pretty confident in saying this is one of Rei's best outfits, although if I'm being honest, it's pretty hard to pin down exactly why. There's a playful mixture of all my favorite elements at work here that just coalesce into a single cohesive standout design. It's probably the beret, isn't it? This is Rei at her most stylish, conceptually speaking, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was pulled straight from the pages of some fashion magazine, and honestly I could even see a JoJo character wearing something like this, at least up until part 4. The bright red beret and matching jacket immediately catch the eye, but the cream sweater dress underneath does a great job of grounding the palette. The oversized belt worn diagonally adds a sash-like flair without distracting from the bold red. Instead, it acts as a visual break that helps balance the outfit's proportions. Meanwhile, the black tights tie everything together, keeping the bottom half sleek and understated, letting the upper half carry the visual flair without overwhelming the design. There's even a bit of subtle character design snuck in by the way of her accessory, a Magatama pendant, which carries deep spiritual connotations throughout Japanese history, arguably the oldest religious symbol on the island. It's a clever nod to Rei's identity as a shrine maiden and helps ground her in her spiritual roots, serving as a kind of inverse to the cross motif discussed earlier. That single detail anchors the entire ensemble to Rei, making it unmistakably hers, which is exactly what you want from a truly great design. Honestly, this outfit easily ranks in my top 3. And just like that, we've made it through 2 seasons, 2 movies, and roughly 25 outfits. If you're still here, you either really love Rei's wardrobe or you just enjoy hearing me ramble. Luckily for you, I do both on this channel. So if you want more Sailor Moon deep dives or you're just waiting to wrap up the Rei fashion trilogy, stay tuned, I'll get to it eventually. I've already doubled my output from last year, so I'm sorry, I'm trying.